Good afternoon, everyone. I am here today to show off my Maria Animation Bible / art book. Alright, so basically this is a compilation of all the artwork that I have done for the original Maria short film. I did this along with the film to hand in for my final year project at uni, which, Sorry, I'm doing all this unscripted, so I'm gonna be very rambly, very all the time. So, but yeah, basically, I wanted to hand in all the other artwork that you don't necessarily see in the short film, so that could get marked as well. So that's why I made this art book, so that I can sort of hand that in with the final film to basically make sure I get a good grade. Essentially, I do get a good grade to be fair, but I thought now that I've started my new archive channel, I thought it would be fun to go through the entire book and sort of talk through it and show the process of it really to you guys who might be interested, considering this film is my most viewed video on my channel. Shout out to Autism Dad on TikTok for sharing my film, because without him then my channel wouldn't have blown up the way it did, so thank you so much. Anyway, we've got 141 pages of content to go through, so yeah, why don't we get cracking? Premise. Oh god, I'm gonna quickly have a sip of my coffee. Right, enough stalling, let's get on with it. Maria, an imaginative and neurodiverse teenage girl, creates art to cope with a stressful school life. Can she keep it together? Let's find out. Oh, wait, it's the arrow keys, not the mouse. The film is a mixture of traditional 2D animation done digitally, as well as animatic style animation. This was done to represent how Maria makes sense of school. Anything that's animatic in black and white is something that Maria doesn't fully understand. I could have worded that sentence better. Okay, very briefly, the whole half of the film is smoothly animated and the other half is done in an animatic style. That was basically done. Well, I kind of had to do it because I was making this film during the last major lockdown we had in the UK, early 2021. So I was doing most of this at home or through limited sessions in the labs, because they used to be open 24/7 at uni, but then they had very limited time slots because of COVID. So I didn't have full access to all the software and technology and stuff, so the best thing I thought of doing was to make it half animatic, half film. However, I wanted to make a narrative reason for it rather than it just feeling like an unfinished film, so that's why I came up with the solution of, when Maria feels isolated or in an environment that they don't belong, they just go to... Everything is in an animatic style, everything's black and white, everything's choppier, it just doesn't really make sense to Maria, so there was limitations and I found a narrative reason for it, essentially, so, yeah. Crew! Nah, this is just the full list of the cast and crew who helped out with the project, I did basically most of it, but there was Sabrina who supervised. She was my main basically for everyone's final year projects. They basically had a supervisor and a secondary supervisor for each student, and Sabrina was my main one, and my secondary one is Andy, who I actually went on to work on some Tim and Bash comics with him and Dan. So yeah, that was really fun. Great guys. Matthew was the Foley artist, Graham, aka Critical Strike, was the music composer, and his friend Kayla did the vocals. The talented Gemma, she did all the voice acting, all the female voice acting essentially. And then my three housemates from uni did all the artwork you see Maria draw in the thing. Very talented artists. Very proud of the work they've done. Moodboards. So yeah, these are basically just me putting the art style I want to capture into Moodboards, which is basically done for like pitching purposes. So yeah, it was the color scheme. The color scheme was sort of like inspired by Earthbound, and you know the overall art style. It's like a fusion of Sonic, Steven Universe, Scott Pilgrim, a little bit of Rayman Origins there. Like that's kind of what I wanted to capture. And then in the animatic, it's just pages from the Scott Pilgrim comic, like the original version before the colored editions, because I really liked the sort of black and white manga style that it kind of had. Oh, and there's a storyboard. Where is that from? Oh, it's from Finding Dory. Oh my god. But yeah, just to show and I give the people an idea of what I was looking for. Psychedelic phosphens. Okay, so what this is based on, for the sensory overload, I wanted like some psychedelic like sort of imagery, like ripples, and the idea came from, you ever like rub your eyes really hard and then you press them together and you kind of see some very subtle sort of black and brown like ripples that happen in your eyes? That phenomenon is called phosphens, and I wanted to sort of capture that in the for the psychedelic like sort of sensory overload scenes, because you know I can imagine when you turn the brightness on those phosphens, like that could get quite overwhelming. So I did have some people say that like the psychedelic imagery was a bit too much in the film. I do apologize in advance if like it got too much for people watching. I feel like if I were to do this sort of thing in the future, I'd probably give like a flashing lights warning. So yeah, thank you for the feedback on that, guys, by the way. Oh, and the Meltdown scene, the ink, so alright, so the ink style, the very inky sort of style was inspired by that one episode of Samurai Jack where he's in the haunted house, and I really, really loved the look of it. It was so cool. And you know, that sort of black ink over like a light box kind of look. And for the scream, it was like, I don't know why Aha's take on me is on this. I think it was to, oh, I know why, because there were meant to be like some sort of scratchy like pencil outlines in the background. I'm not sure if I actually ended up adding those in the end though, but it's in some of the concept art though. It's gonna come up later. And then the telephone, that's from a really, really disturbing U-rated ad, might I add, for the Samaritans, which is basically a crisis hotline for people who are struggling with mental health issues. And they did some very scary like PSAs in the 80s, and there's one of like a screaming telephone that comes after like just constant noise and sensory overload, and I thought it'd be a perfect thing to capture for this kind of short film.
I want a divorce now! Daddy!
Storyboards. Alright, so okay, so this was the very first like storyboard created for the short film. An animatic of this storyboard never got made, mainly because like I didn't like the story like near finishing it, so I just thought, oh, screw it, I'll just make a new storyboard without wasting time on this animatic, because I was on quite a tight deadline for this project. But oh, sorry about but yeah, basically like the original plot is everyone's in like history class or whatever, and Maria's drawing, and then Miss Dictat it's such a stupid name. That's what her name is, Miss Dictat. Like she had a much more evil design and was a lot crueler in the original storyboard draft, and then I just straight up like changed her to be a bit more grounded in the final version, even though like, you know, she's still kind of a dick, but yeah. So yeah, basically she had like this giant horn to tell people to be silent, and everyone started wearing their masks. And then she spots Maria still drawing with the headphones, and then, you know, snatches it off her and puts it on a desk, tells her to put a mask on, And then, as we're not looking, this punk girl, oh, what was her name? Was it Ruby Roberts? Takes the... I'm so sorry, I made this. I can't remember the name of those kinds of, like, whipping things. I'm just gonna call them a stick. you can tell me what it is in the comments, so I can look it up later. But yeah, she takes it to be a rebel, and then that's when the sensory overload element starts kicking in. People are whispering, and there's all sorts of sounds coming in, and she's getting sort of overwhelmed. She tries to draw to sort of distract herself from it, but then the teacher throws... Oh, Jesus Christ, I didn't realize she was so brutal in this version. She then throws a chalk wipe at Maria, tells her to get in the spotlight. A spotlight literally appears, and tells her to answer a question in front of the whole class. What is that sort of symbol? Is that meant to be Henry VIII? I'm not sure. Anyway, she starts to get sensory overload again, but this time in front of the whole class, and it's getting overwhelming. And then, around this part, that's when she does the scream. And then, oh god, right, the reason why these lines look so faded is because I accidentally merged them, because basically the way I draw storyboards is that I'll, on a new layer, trace over the previous one on a separate layer, and then I'll merge the two layers together. However, because in order to trace them, I lower the opacity down for a bit, but I forgot to do that when I merged it, and I already exited the file at that point and didn't notice. So nowadays, I know the easiest fix is to just simply duplicate the layers multiple times so that it ends up becoming a full shade again. But yeah, that's why it kind of looks like that. So yeah, she cries. However, she finds a pen on the floor, looks at it, and then a coloured version of her comes up to her saying it's going to be alright. And then she wipes her tears, they get up, they hug, and then... Okay, so what was originally going to happen was she was going to draw the answer instead of saying it, and that impresses all the kids, but the teacher dismisses it, so... And then they all leave school, and, people think Maria is cool, and yay, happy story. However, I felt like that ending was a little too unrealistic, a bit too cheesy, because, look, if you've been to a secondary school in the UK, teenagers can be absolutely brutal, and, they would just laugh at something like this. But I didn't want the film to end on a bad or cynical note, because I don't really want to make stories like that. So that's when I just came up with, I wanted to make the ending a bit more bittersweet in the end, which we'll get to later. The second draft. An animatic did get made of this storyboard, which I'll upload onto the archive channel at some point, but the animatic of that version didn't get finished. But it essentially starts the same. She's drawing, only I think she's inside this time. This sensory overload thing happens again. However, it doesn't go full swing. It's a bit slower paced. Someone tells Maria to tuck her shirt in still, and then she's wearing the mask, but the mask had a more sort of masquerade persona kind of look initially. So yeah, and then some people are trying to show a video that Maria doesn't really get the humor of. They all laugh in her ears, sensory overload, bell goes off again, and then yeah, the classroom scene seems to play out as normal. However, there's a lot more. Each thing that's making the sound gets its own close-up rather than it just being represented by sound ripples. So yeah, Maria's trying to tap to cope with it, and then she gets asked a question, asks if she's been paying attention, and then it causes the mask to start cracking, and then the ending basically plays out the same as it did. Miss Stickland checks up on her and she paints to cope, only there's a bit of a zoom out of the class in the original ending, so a bit more closer to the final vision. The bittersweet element, I added that because I wanted to show that Maria still struggles at this school, but there is a place at school that she can go to cope with it. That's kind of the ending that I wanted to sort of get across to make it a bit more grounded, a bit more realistic. So yeah, that's what I've done. Storyboards! Final draft. Sorry. Yeah, basically plays out more like the final version of the film, essentially. An animatic of this has already been uploaded onto... Well, it was on my main channel at one point, but I've recently privated it so that I can put it in the archive channel to make it a bit more consistent. So, originally, the ripples... Why did I say it like that? Originally, apparently... Okay, let's go. Anyway, so originally the sorry. Originally, the ripples were going to be like sort of comic panels showcasing where the sound is coming from. Other than that, though, the film basically plays out like more like the final version of the film. Originally, there was going to be a zoom out for this bit, but it just cuts in the final film. And then eyes were going to pop up during this zoom in shot here, but then it just felt a bit too complicated to make it work, so I just focused on just having the ripples and having Maria sort of zoom in. So yeah, this plays out like normal. Oh, and basically, so this draft, these are storyboards that would get added later on, but I essentially didn't put them in this original draft, but I thought of the shots later to make things a bit more sense, so these are just added in the animatic to be a bit more refined. So, ooh, clean storyboards, nice. So these were drawn. I don't really do animatics in this style anymore, but I probably should. Basically, these are cleaner, more animatic style with movable canvases for camera movement, and I only did these for the fully animated shots, though, because I was gonna animate the other shots in an animatic style anyway, so I didn't really see much point in making these kinds of boards for them. But yeah, as you can see, they're a bit more clean, refined. The outlines are much cleaner and closer to the final versions, which did actually become very useful for when I was doing the final versions of them. You can see the ripple effects. Quite proud of how these turned out, actually. Don't know why there's a black outline on some of them though. Oh, it might be the camera. It might be because some of them had a camera movement. I don't know. Oh yeah, this became way more zoomed in the final version of this. So yeah. And then she's painting the picture that eventually Molly would go to paint, but this was my initial sketch that I gave to her to base it off of. So yeah. Oh, and here's some scrap storyboards that I ended up cutting. Originally the intro was going to have Maria sign her name on the painting, but I didn't have time, so I just basically just had the signature there already. This shot I scrapped because it didn't really make a lot of sense, because she was sitting at a different angle. I just didn't really see much point to it. And this shot where she's mixing on the thing, well, it's in the film, but it's at a different angle. It used to be this sort of Wes Anderson shot, but now it's it's much more thing. It's much more from the bottom angle. How does it look when I zoom in? Oh yeah, I can zoom in. Okay, that will be useful for later. So, let me just check it hasn't... Oh, I need to zoom in a bit more again. There we go. It's back to its normal size. Right then. Visual development. Oh, I'm looking forward to this part because you get to see some never before seen artwork of what Maria used to look like. Oh god, I was gonna say that to be dramatic, but I love the speech near the end. But anyway, let's go. So, early male Maria sketches. Okay, so basically, Maria was originally going to be a boy because it's kind of like a self-insert story of the sort of struggles I had, being an autistic kid, at secondary school. So yeah, he was going to be a boy. He kind of looks like an Eddsworld character in this shot here. And then he had like, I wanted to give him like droopy eyes, because I feel like that's how I look at people sometimes. Oh, that is straight up Matt from Eddsworld. Oh my god. Look at this derpy face here. Why is his hand? That's his hand! I drew his hand too big in that drawing. Oh my god. But yeah, I was experimenting with different eye shapes. But yeah, I gotta say though, it's making me appreciate the character design a bit more, because a lot went into designing this character, and this is like the initial stage. Let me zoom in again. There we go. And these are the more finalized versions of Maria's male design, and like this big nose one here. This is when I decided to do the ring shapes. Like people thought that he looked blind. Maria and by extension Maria in the final film looked blind because of the ring shaped eyes. But I decided to go with fully shaded eyes for the Psychic Maria design. I just felt like it, to be fair. I experimented with different hair colors, which I would then post on Instagram to like my friends and followers at the time, like to sort of give what they think looks the best. And yeah, like he had shorter hair at one point, and then it eventually led to longer hair, wearing a hoodie underneath, listening to music through some wired earphones. And he had like a Pac-Man beanie at one point and a big like Mario nose. So next one. And this is when so basically after doing some research on autism representation, I noticed that women were underrepresented in media and society, like in terms of like autistic women. And I decided to look up like any particular specific issues that women face, and that's when I found out about autistic masking. And I was reading up stories on the National Autistic Society website to sort of like gain some insight. This tattoo artist called Charles Davis stuck out to me because, you know, she didn't find out she was autistic till much later, and, you know, just sort of uses her art to sort of like cope with some of the issues she faces as an autistic woman. And I think that really stuck out to me, so I decided to you know, make Maria a girl. Did I give I never actually gave the male version of Maria a name, but in the files for him, I just called him Maurice. I don't know, I couldn't think of a better male companion name to Maria, so... but yeah, she wore like a jacket at one point, and then she had a shorter ponytail, but then later on I decided to make the ponytail much longer, because I just felt like it stuck out a bit more iconic. I think I chose blue because autism color, I'm not gonna lie. But like, no, like I just genuinely like the color blue, and I just think it really suited like the character's mood. But yeah, mask designs. Yeah, originally I was gonna go for this sort of Joker-like mask, and then eventually I decided to go with a very plasticky, fake smile kind of mask because I felt like it was a lot creepier, and it kind of just showed like the sort of plastic happiness that society expects us to present like to the world, and I kind of wanted to represent that and make it look kind of creepy and freaky. I don't know why I said it like that. Anyway, and then some expression sheets. Yeah, so I did a little turntable. I did different character expressions to sort of like show like Maria's like different moods and the sort of expressions I wanted to show in the film. And this is the sort of look that I wanted, the final look of what I wanted the Meltdown scenes to do, like just use this very inky brush. In the end though, I used like a light box, I created the light box sort of look, like the sort of shadows and blending through, what was it, After Effects, yeah. And then a little turntable here, and then this is like very subtle, but here's like what she looks like in different shades of lighting depending on where she's at. It's very subtle. I kind of wish I went a bit more all out with it in retrospect, but this one right here, I had at one point had an idea where she sort of like loses her headband, and you know, we see her without a ponytail, just having this really long hair, because like if a ponytail is that long, she's gonna have like very long hair like this. So that's kind of what I thought, and this is just early rough sketches of expression sheets. This weird thing here, it looks weird, but like basically one of my stims is I'll just do this like behind my ears, and that's what I was trying to replicate. So I'm probably gonna get ear damage from doing it at some point, but yeah, that's what I do. Miss Stickland. Alright, so at one point she had a ponytail. Her design, weirdly enough, was heavily inspired by, I think it was Miss Kawa. Hold on, I'm gonna look this up. It's the teacher from Persona 5, the one who also works as a maid in her spare time. Miss Kawakami! Yes, she was inspired by Miss Kawakami, her design, which is why I sort of went with yellow colours. But I also went with yellow colours for the jumper because I felt like they were just very warm, welcoming colours, and you know, and the green skirt kind of represents like the sort of groundedness of her, like. Because, you know, I wanted her to be the nice teacher. I like this drawing here of her, like, you know, sniffing a cup of coffee, like the smoke effect. And then this, I think I went a bit overboard on, like, the drapery, I think, in retrospect. But, yeah, nah, we love Miss Stickland. She's actually named after my form tutor from secondary school, and, like, she was, like, one of the loveliest, like, staff members I had, so... Yeah, big shout out to Miss Stickland. Some expression sheets of this one right here. Wow, look at her. You've got this, bro. These are like some rough sketches. This is mainly for the part where she's like, you don't have to explain anything if you don't want to. I think this part was meant to be like sort of her saying, "You've got this." Or like just the part where she says, you know, she can listen to music if she wants. So yeah, the old Miss Dictat designs. I sort of shaped her after a coffin. I was thinking Anton Ego from Ratatouille, because like I really love that character design and how it's coffin shaped, and his whole office is coffin shaped. So at one point I had an idea where she turns into like a sort of Final Fantasy final boss god. Oh, I'm trying to think which angel it represents. I can't remember now. If you recognize the shape, Hollis might know. But like, if you can like sort of make out what it's representing, let me know. You know, help me remember my own goddamn work. But yeah, like I thought she looked too stereotypically evil though, like a sort of like Matilda, like Miss Trunchbull-esque type, but scrawnier and skinnier. But in the end, I sort of toned her down to be a bit more, still keeping the swirly hair because I like the swirly hair, but like making her a bit more grounded in her design. The eye shape. I don't think we've got to the eye designs yet, but we will. But yeah, she's just got a more normal design, but still kind of has those sort of. Okay, you don't actually see it in the final film because it's in black and white, but she had like purple colours to represent like her being like the less nice teacher essentially. Yeah, this was the punk girl that I had, who was going to be Maria's friend at the end of the initial draft of the short film, Ruby Roberts. Basically just Maria's opposite colours with the red hair and stuff. I think her energy did kind of inspire Sam a little bit though, now that I think about it. I think it's the Doc Martens and the sort of punk attitude, but yeah. Oh, and the eyeball shapes, the designs, this also gave me the idea of how to design the boys' uniform. I mean, both the boys and the girls' uniform, they're all based on like the school uniform at my secondary school, King James in Knaresborough. They're all designed around that, although their uniform is green. I changed mine to a more sort of like maroon, purplish brown sort of colour, like my primary school, because I noticed that's a very common uniform colour at a lot of UK schools, so yeah. And then I had one where it's just plain and one with the hairs. I decided to go with the hairs to help you distinguish each student better. Oh, look at this ragtag team of students. A lot of them were sort of based on people I knew and like people I'm friends with, and like just, you know, like, here we go. Oh, he's on my buddy Shaz. You know, shout out to Bodo Production over there. Like, hope you're doing all right, man. This one is based on like I know someone who like has like a long Furby, and she requested that I put him in the film somehow, so I went with that. He is just straight up based on Scott the Woz. There's Ruby Roberts, who did make it in the final film, but is just a silent character. And then when you scroll to the right, oh, yeah, these are all the eyeball designs when they're all staring at Maria and stuff. Even Ruby, who I guess she's a traitor now. We don't stand Ruby in this household, unless I reuse it for something, like a future project or something. But yeah, prop designs with different color tones. Yeah, so you know the color tone thing I showed earlier, it's with Maria in different shades. I basically did that for the prop designs. Wasn't really a lot of props to design. It's mainly like basically all objects that Maria interacts with in the film. So like a backpack, paint bottles, paint brushes, felt tips, her phone, her iPad, the little like Bluetooth aux thing, which I don't think I've ever had like a headphone that works like that, but I just put it in to basically communicate like the sort of wireless functionality a bit better. Oh, and the sort of paint table. Yeah, I'm actually quite proud of these. I like the way I use the thick outlines to like, because I love using thick outlines in my work. So I kind of like doing prop sheets actually. You know, it can be quite relaxing. But yeah, some logo design. The bottom two have massive graphic design is my passion vibes, but yeah, nah, originally I was gonna have like a sort of thing in the background of the Maria logo, but in the end I just ended up just making it the text, because it just looked a bit neater. Prototype logo designs. Makes me sound like an inventor, like Wallace from Wallace and Gromit, bloody hell. This one looks kind of ugly though, I can't lie. Like, just the dark shadow just makes it look very washed out. This one looks a bit better though. It's got like a more pastel sort of look to it with the shadow, but yeah, I ended up just keeping it simple and just going with these designs. Ooh. But yeah, I do like the sort of handmade sort of look to them. Ooh, concept art. So right, these are like, so when I work on a 2D animated project, I make still concept art where I basically draw what might be a potential frame in the final product, and I do this for all my projects, and I do a still concept art for every like environment in the film or in the project. So the one in this case, this was for the outdoor scene, but as you can tell, it like looks a bit wrong. Like, I didn't end up finishing it. Like, I tried to go for like a sort of grass look for the main fieldy bits, but I didn't end up, because I was struggling to figure out how to do the trees. But I don't know, it just didn't really vibe. I didn't really vibe well with it, so I didn't end up finishing it. That's why the rest of it looks so flat. It do be a more final looking version of it, where I decided to basically give all the elements in the background outlines, but pencil outlines, whereas the characters use like a thick ink outline to basically like help distinguish it. And I went with more pastel colors similar to Earthbound to better like contrast from the more vibrant colors of the film. It was actually very relaxing to do these still concept arts, because I do them all on my iPad in Procreate, so it basically like, just so I can basically take it anywhere, really. And here's like the initial look of the open locker scene. This was back when I think I did this before all the other still concept art, because it still kind of has that sort of outlineless look going on. It looks a bit muddy and rusty though, like, I don't know how to describe it, but like, yeah, and obviously the books are less detailed than what they ended up being in the final background. And then this is how it looks when it's closed. And then this was an original hallway sketch. I did this by hand, actually, on my Lightbox. Actually quite proud of this. I don't really do as much, like, physical art anymore, unless it's, like, doodles on a notebook while sat at, like, a lecture or something. Or, like, if I'm waiting for something. But, yeah, like, I'm actually quite proud of. I actually like the look of this one. And then this is the original look of... Okay, why did I not put this guy in the final thing? I love his long nose and sort of like the eyebrows. Oh my god, let me zoom in on that. Look at him. It just goes with the motion blur effect that I added to the thing as well. I love the sort of like motion blur effect I added to it, which I was doing to add some depth. But might add him for a future project at some point, because yeah, he just looks iconic. But yeah, that's basically what the original like sort of hallway. It does look very similar to the final version, just like I didn't add any like perspective blurs or anything to the final design. And obviously some of the background characters are a bit different, but yeah, it's pretty faithful. Hallway. So this is what the sensory overload bit was going to look like with the original comic panels, but I just felt like it ended up looking a bit too messy and kind of bad, so that's why I just decided to stick to the ripples. Well, that, and it was also time as well. I didn't think I had time to animate all these different elements in one, so yeah. Oh, this one, now this frame right here was just straight up in the final film. This still, because like it just looked too good, and like I think I made it a bit darker in the final film, but yeah, like this this just was just straight up. Although I think I did change the layers around so that the shadows went a bit darker. Did they? I can't remember. But this shot was also ended up just being used in the final film, although Maria's design is different, like the pose that she's in, looking away in the eye's reflection is different. I'm actually quite proud of how this one turned out, because like I sort of like painted on some shading, like I actually painted something for once in my life in that sort of like paint shading style, and it looks quite neat actually. But I don't know why I haven't done it. I need to like work on all these styles I've experimented with in the past again. Ah yes, the psychedelic phosphens. Okay, is it actually pronounced phosphens? Hold up, let me look it up on Google. Say it to the camera, Google man.
Phosphine.
Phosphine, right, phosphenes. Psychedelic phosphenes. Basically just like mirroring like all the ripples and stuff and changing the colours and stuff onto Google. It did I did tone it down a bit in the final film, but this is what I initially envisioned them as, just mirroring and colliding ripples and artwork for the Meltdown. These two are like some of the earliest concept arts that I've done for the film, like experimenting with different colours rather than just black and white, going for a very sort of scratchy, etchy kind of look. And this is what I mean about like adding in the pencil scribbles from Take On Me's music video in this shot here. This one was done by hand actually, which I'm quite proud of. This is the art classroom concept art to basically get the idea of what the art classroom would look like. Originally it was going to be like normal sunny weather outside, but in the final film I added rain to create a bit more of an atmosphere. One thing I kind of wish I did if I had more time was add the sort of like reflection of the characters in the background. I think that would have looked really nice. I think when there's an open window there though, like you've got to like distort one part of it, and like, you know, you also got to animate to reflect like each character's side essentially. So I just didn't have time to add it, but it would have looked really cool, I think, if I had the time to add it in. Scrap scene from the first storyboard. Like, Okay, this is the part when, Maria, like, hugs, like, her colourful self. I mean, I scrapped that. One of the reasons being, I will say, though, it's a nice looking shot. I do like the sort of, like, scribbles and different textures, and then the light just sort of comes blending in. Although when I was making this, I realised that it was literally just ripping off the final episode of Steven Universe, the very cool scene that James Baxter animated. So that's when I was like, you know what, this is kind of corny. I'm gonna like change it to something a bit more bittersweet. Final shot comparisons. Oh, this is just basically comparing like each bit of concept art with the final like screenshots from the film. So as you can see, like the colors became a bit warmer in the final film. I kind of wish they were a bit more pastel looking at it though, like they were in this concept art. Same here, but we've added rain and a different bit of art for the table. We removed the comic panels altogether for like these two shots. The locker is more reflective of the final art style of the film, and there's more details in here. Like, you know what? Let me zoom in to see if we can spot all the Easter eggs. This is based on Richard Williams' The Animated Survival Kit, but I renamed it to Art Student Survival Kit. This one you can't really see, but it's basically an hypothetical big art book based on the sleep paralysis short film that I worked on with like some uni friends. That's the one that actually won us the RTS award. This one's just a sketchbook. I think this one is low-key based on one of the Scott Pilgrim books. It says 6, but 6 is black. And then you got a Game Boy Advance, and you got Kirby sticker, Mario Power Star sticker, Sonic knockoff sticker, and this cat. I don't know what cat he's based on, but I kind of hate that I made this in 2021 and he kind of looks like the rabbit from Digital Circus. Bloody hell. Yeah, these ones are basically the same. I just took the initial concept arts and put them into the final film with some tweaks here and there, like different Maria design and different, like, it just looks a bit darker here. And then we've got like the ripples and the meltdown. Backgrounds! Now these are basically just like all the literal backgrounds that I used. A lot of them are like these sort of big like panoramas to help with the camera movement. Though to be honest, because this one, for example, that's just one layer. But like if I were to like make this film now, I would have like done the ones further away and the school here. I would have like made them into separate layers so I can move them at different speeds to create a parallax effect to just make it look more like there's depth and stuff, like because I started utilizing more parallax effects in my other projects, so that's something I would definitely do if I were to do this again. Yeah, like just showing a lot of these just sort of show like all the different layers and stuff that went into the work of this, as well as like any other effects that I've done. Like here in this classroom scene, for example, you can like I decided to put down like all the different layers that I made, just green, and then a random scribble to make the shadow. And there's a hole in these two so that I can put the painting like behind it on the computer. All the backgrounds were also done on Procreate as well, and then I exported them all together. Same here. The rain effect was added behind the windows, which is why I made them separate layers. Same here. And we can see Hollis's art, but I zoomed in on this part to okay, here we go. This is like the drawing playlist that I've seen people try and pause the video to try and spot songs. So I will, if you want a closer look of it now, at a decent speed, this is your chance. Alright, so we got, I mean you can see the playlist on YouTube, because I've created it from existing videos, but yeah, you can see like all these songs, like, you got Sonic, you got Persona 5, Enigma, Final Fantasy, some city pop. If you can read this, just know I love you. Aw, thank you, Aaron from the past. Some Docs. Pollyanna, I got a lot of Mother fans on the comments, like, point that out. And then you've got literally just the intro and outro, literally just the opening and ending songs in the final film. I did get, you know what though, because this is meant to like be a parody of Spotify. Someone did ask if I could put the songs on Spotify. I don't know, maybe in the future. I just need to like figure out like, you know, how to use Spotify and stuff. Sticker Bush Symphony from Donkey Kong Country 2, Swimming from KKB, love them, and The Roof Caves In by Lake, who I don't know, I it's not their best song from that album. Basically, they're the bands that made the original version of Come Along With Me from Adventure Time, but their original version is called Christmas Island. Recommend it. I think I personally prefer the original version to the one used in the show, because it uses a lot more psychedelic instruments and stuff. But yeah, they're like an indie band, and yeah, they make some pretty cool stuff. Oh, god damn it, I zoomed in again. Oh, scrapped background. Don't know why I made this. I can't remember what it was used for. I think it was the old version of one of the storyboards when she hears the bell while outside, but I decided to have the school in the frame instead to make it look a bit nicer and see where the sound is coming clearly. Poster! Yeah, I made this cool little poster for when I was submitting it to film festivals, though. Don't look up ironballproductions.com though. That is not a real domain. I just sort of added it to make it look official, and I did plan on making a website with that domain at one point, but I just never got around to it. And you know, I rebranded my thing to Third Eye Animation since then, so yeah. I'm actually quite proud of how this poster turned out. You know, like, you just have Maria who's drawing in the zone, and it's sort of shielding out all the sensory overload ripply waves coming in, and you see the rough sketch to the left as well. Commissioned art! Alright, so we've got the painting that Maria does on her tablet. I commissioned Hollis to do this one. I asked them to do like a parody of the Final Fantasy VII Advent Children poster, because I wanted to show that, you know, Maria was kind of nerdy, and also because I was obsessed with the Final Fantasy VII remake at that point. It was not long after Sephiroth was added to Smash Brothers, so... And Hollis became obsessed with the character at that point as well, so I thought it would be a perfect fit. Then we got Maria's Meltdown drawing done by Mats Layfield. Really talented artist. He did like a great short film. He does like very like abstract, very inky like artwork with like sort of distorted, uncanny like proportions and stuff. And I thought he would be like a perfect fit for this drawing showcasing Maria's Meltdown. Although I realised that he gave Maria nostrils. That is terrifying. But no, I do love this piece. And then we got this one that was done by Molly, who gave Maria some tie-dye trousers, which she had at the time, and some, because she's very good at like doing like sort of painting in this kind of style, and I wanted to incorporate that into this piece. Yeah, it perfectly matches the vibe that I was going for, so yeah, this was perfect. And then this was my initial sketch, with me sort of highlighting where I want the light source to be in the painting. So yeah, cool stuff. Credits art. Oh, these are basically just the artwork that I made for the credits, where I decided to go for a sort of airbrush, sort of spray paint shading style to make it look more like sort of poster art. You know, like how Disney has like more hand-painted looks for their posters compared to how they look in the film, essentially. I've got one for Maria, one for the mask, which doesn't really look that much different, just extra shading really. Showcasing all the drawings for the credits, represented by the different like objects that Maria draws them on. Miss Stickland doing a sassy pose, and then the mask broken. I actually do like this shot. Oh yeah, I also designed a font for the credits of the film, which was pretty cool. And then stills, it's just screenshots for the film that I made for submitted to film festivals and stuff, so nothing too fancy there. And the end credits, basically with like the copyright information and stuff. And yeah, that was my Maria art book. This is like the first ever time I'm doing a video like this, so if you really enjoyed it, if you want to see more videos like that with like this kind of style of me like flicking through like all my work and stuff, then let me know in the comments. Just a fair warning though, I haven't made an art book like this for all the projects I've worked on, and some of them, one of them is, one of the ones I made though is for the Psychic Maria pilot, and I don't really want to show off like anything for that until it's finished. But yeah, like if you want to see more content like this, let me know. I've got more sort of fun bonusy content to add on this new channel at some point, so yeah, I shall see you all later. Take care guys, and have a good night!